Good evening and welcome to Power Up Monday online. Tonight we have a very special guest. We have Sam Holdridge from Hometown Hub joining us, and I'm very excited that he's been able to take some time this evening. But I wanted to first start by thanking everyone for staying in and tuning in to us and go over a few little technical things. So far, so good, and the weather's looking great for this evening. But if we do run into any technical difficulties due to internet or power outages due to imminent thunderstorms, we will try to obviously persevere, but if it gets too severe and we don't have a good connection, we will try to re-record this at a later date. So, and also to know if you're not able to stay for the whole event, we are recording the event and we will be posting to the library's YouTube channel, which has some other terrific recordings already there. So be sure to check that out. If you do want to ask questions of either myself or Sam during the event, you'll find, because this is a live event, you'll have a chat function on usually the upper right-hand corner of your screen where you can type in your questions and we will do our absolute best to get to them all at the end of the event and answer them. I'll also be sharing all of Sam's contact information if there's something you want to follow up with on that end specifically, really specific to a business or any additional questions that perhaps we don't cover. So just wanted to give you a few of those little housekeeping items up front. Power Up Monday online is a series of events that we do to help with small businesses and entrepreneurs across the city. And it's especially important now during what's been going on in the municipality and the greater, and across really the whole country. So really helpful in terms of starting a new business, maybe reinvigorating a business, and really towards the whole economic recovery. So I'm going to let Sam take it away here and let him introduce himself and tell you all about Hometown Hub. Here you go, Sam. And there you go, you are live.
Live, I have the red circle around me, perfect. Well, I just want to say thank you for inviting myself and our team to kind of collectively put this together. And it's been a lot of fun, and we've definitely, Hometown Hub has been a really great asset for our team, and we're hoping to continue to grow. So a little bit about who you're listening to today. I'm recently, as of 5 years, landed in Canada. My wife is from here. I'm from the States. Growing up, it was coming out of university. It was more of a focus for me on finance, and but there was always overtones of marketing. And then through a couple events, I ended up in the South. We were in Charleston. I was director of corporate communications for a long time for a multi-state enterprise, and then left that and started our digital agency. This is our 11th year. So we landed. I came to Canada 5 years ago, and we started Hamilton Rising 3 years ago, which some of you may on the call or presentation know about. And that was our way to really connect with Hamilton and the community and understand it. And what we did with Hamilton Rising was take a multi kind of platform approach, meaning that we had a web approach, a social approach, and even a mobile application approach. And then we launched the platform with all of those, and we kind of took a video first model with it. So it's been great to grow that in Hamilton, really get to know the city and build a team and an ecosystem around it. Hometown Hub was created in the end of March as kind of a reaction to what was happening with COVID. We really wanted to create a platform that supported small businesses and small business and also small enterprises throughout Hamilton digitally. So that was the nature of how we wanted to create Hometown Hub. So it's a little bit of backstory, but it's been around. The first generation we launched in the beginning. The beginning of April is when it first launched. So.
Wow, Sam, that's really impressive. I've been checking out your website, and that's incredible to think you've done that much in just a few months.
Yeah, I mean, as with anything with COVID, we've seen even from the social platforms to this platform, everything has done 6 years of work in 6 months. That's kind of what's happened, right? So we've been fortunate if we knew the importance of trying to, support any way we could and give a digital leg up to anybody and use any resource or any knowledge we have to put that at the forefront for the community. So we've been fully committed to that, and much of the team were heavily invested in coffee and not much sleep, I guess, over the past bunch of months. We're happy with what's come about of it, so I appreciate that.
It sometimes feels like that, right? 6 years and 6 months. I can certainly attest to that too. Well, let's jump right in here.
Let's do it. So the goal of today is to kind of give a 10,000-foot view and answer some questions. When anybody's developing a digital strategy, I kind of wanted to go over the major steps and kind of what we've seen as far as and what we've learned in 25 years of plan design, and then take that and just tie it back to Hometown Hub at the end. So that's the kind of goal of the presentation and kind of what's going to be moving throughout it. The first slide, it's small moves, big results. When one of the issues that people address when they're developing a digital strategy is trying to think that it's just one specific thing. I just need to put up a website and I'm done, or I just need to put up a Google My Business page, or I want to sell something, or I just want to be an influencer on social media. So that may have worked 10 years ago to only have a web presence, but there's so much connectivity between each of the parts, meaning the website, the social presence, how you get that messaging out, and each has its different asset and use. So having that understanding when you come in to a web presence, whether you've been on web for 20 years or you've been on web 20 minutes, having those optics that you don't just live in one place. Now, having said that, one place, meaning let's just say your Instagram account or your Facebook page, may generate and be the hub of everything, but it doesn't stand on its own. And this just isn't supported by us. I mean, we really, all the search engines, mainly we'll just talk about Google, really look at your whole cohesive strategy. Are they on, do they have a website? Are they on Google My Business? Are they on Facebook? Are they on Instagram? Are they active everywhere, right? And that's really when you're building something, have that mentality when going into it. It's not just one thing, it's the sum of its parts. Now that can seem very daunting for sure. When you come into something and say, oh, well, I just needed a website. I'm selling flugel binders online. I just want to sell through an e-commerce site. And that's phenomenal, but you got to think about message distribution and where your audience is. And we'll get into some of that later, but having those optics that even if you had a web presence that, wow, we have a really good website and really good traffic, it's not converting. Think more round about all the assets and how they really tie in. One other thing I'll point out on this slide is a lot of people have used social media as just a checkbox, right? Are we on Facebook? Check. Are we posting anything? Check. We'll get to this more later, but just wanting you to think that each distribution channel that you're on, think of it that you're speaking directly to a different audience, and you really want to take care and nurture that audience. You don't just want to checkbox them, because that will come through in the content. So again, having a big picture where you can wrap your mind around that it's not just a website we need to foster, but we need to foster the cohesive whole, the collective parts of all of your digital presence. And again, it can be overwhelming, but again, small moves, big result. Just tying back to that it is those small incremental moves that make a bigger result.
That's such a good point, Sam, because I know I recently was trying to find a new clinician for something and, had a list from their professional organization website. But then when I tried to find their website, it wasn't there. So then they found their Facebook page, but once again, tried to link to their website and it didn't work. So when I eventually did speak to this person and in person, like I called them directly and they answered. They were like, oh yeah, I wanted to get that done, but somebody, you know, had a baby or COVID hit, or I didn't get back to it. And you're right, it's hard to find out that extra bit of information then if you only have one piece of the puzzle kind of in place.
You brought up a phenomenal point there, which really goes back to one of those starting blocks is design your presence how you would engage and interact with it. I mean, I personally, if I'm looking up a business, I shoot a search term into Google or something and I see a business come up. Okay, well, do they have some reviews there? What are people saying about them? I get it's a grain of salt. It's either I'm way happy or I'm really unhappy. I mean, those are typically the results. But then you jump over into their social presence, say, okay, what does it look like? What does their Instagram look like? What does their Facebook page look like? The consumer, this isn't just Google on a high horse making this determination. What they're doing is they're harvesting consumer data, looking at how people interact and make decisions online. And that's really those data points is how someone's going to make a decision. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to say, hey, can I look at their website on my phone? Cool. Do they have some reviews? Okay, they have some bad, some good, but they respond to people. Awesome. What does their Facebook page look like? Last update was from 2008. And it was a picture of at like Nana's Thanksgiving. That really doesn't help me. So having those points, it's really about converting consumer. And you brought up such a great point about how people consume and make decisions based off kind of digital points. And that's ties back.
Because having some current information is so critical.
Critical. Hmm?
I love this slide. I am so awesome. We should all repeat this to ourselves many times.
I love it too. And really having that understanding that marketing a product is in a process is way easier than marketing an ego. And just there's at the beginning step that I'm so awesome, and this is the all about me part when you're kind of designing a strategy, saying, really, what do I want to get out there? This is that time to really figure that out. You know, like what do I first want to put out there that I really feel like people are going to engage with? Go hard into that and then just kind of get it down and put it out there and then ditch it. And really kind of, it's tough to do, but really look at fully flushing out how you want to appear online and then measuring how your customers engage with that and really utilizing that information. A lot of businesses who have been successful are not they're not really marketing an ego for if they're not just marketing a personality. Even if they are, they've already gone to productize it. And it's, you know, it's one of those things where you see a lot of times that people will develop a strategy, will do it together, and there's 25 cooks in the kitchen. You know, they'll ask, hey, I got a logo done I'm sending it out to everybody I know. And if you ask somebody a question, they're going to give you an answer for sure. So same thing with your web presence, your social. Really define and get it to look how you feel or your team or whomever the key decision makers, they want it to look. That's a great first step because it really creates that identity. This is such an important step. And it allows you, once you've done that full exercise, to move on from that and saying, okay, we put ourselves out there. How do we get and convert now the audience, and how do we make it the best experience for them? So sometimes we see issues with brands that want to continually market just more of an ego thing, for lack of a better term, like me, I. Well, you're supposed to be good at your job. Here's a shocker for you, you know, and those are the expectations. So how do you really do that first step and really, with you and your team, define that such lock, stock, two smoking barrels, and then put it out there and utilize that. So this step, you know, and you know, answering a lot of questions is a really great way to kind of get through there. You know, how do you sell products? How many? And different products at different times. Taking your favorite brand, you know, who are your 10 favorite brands and why do you buy from them? And why would you buy from them, and take yourself through that process. So it's really kind of adapting yourself, but this is the self-discovery, and I mean, honestly, you are awesome if you're taking these steps. So if you're making this leap, I mean, I'm in your corner. I'm a huge fan of you. So taking this is a very important selfish part of the digital design, and I think a lot of people maybe do 5 years later down the road rather than I think it's even if you've been up on web for 20 years, taking these kind of stock of this, I think is crucial.
Well, it's also that personal connection, right? And that customer service. I know like some people might shop somewhere specifically, whether it's online or in person, because they have a great return policy. And right now, maybe that's all they really want, that they're ordering all their stuff online and shipping their house. They want to know they have a good return policy because maybe it's not going to be correct what they ordered. Maybe it doesn't show up like they thought, or it's the wrong size, or it's the wrong something. And knowing that gives them the confidence to not only place that order to begin with and get that business, but also to do that word of mouth referral. That's so important.
Huge, right? Yeah, that trust. And this brand identity exercise, and people use a lot of buzzwords and stuff, but this brand identity exercise of really getting to know who we as a company, who's our team, and what are our deliverables, what are our core offerings is, again, to your point, so crucial and really meaningful to the consumer that you're going to work with, or the audience.
And for those businesses that maybe have always had that great in-store, in-person experience and have had to move to online sales during this time, how does that translate, right? And and how can they get those people to then go online and maybe do some of those purchases and not wait till their doors are open again? And what does that look like? So I think that's really important to really, those questions you ask here are so crucial to figuring that out.
And honestly, I mean, okay, there's been a complete migration to digital, whether forced or not. But say even things go back to, we erased the past 4 months and it never happened. I think that's not going to happen, in the sense of, even if we go back to some normalcy, there has been a shift in the industry where you want to diversify your revenue, for lack of a better term. You want, even if I am all, if we had a business and we were all in store, we want to make sure that we're covered. If we've taken some stuff from COVID, some positives, that's definitely a positive, that we really kind of want to diversify the offering to say, are we taking advantage of digital? Okay, great. We have in-person and digital. And I think I wouldn't forced, I think is the wrong word, but I think it's brought to light and help businesses and organizations and artists and all members of the community understand that let's get a little bit more digital literacy, and how do I execute on that? So I think if there's been some positives, that's a positive, is that kind of digital literacy for people.
Yeah, no, I think that's critical. I love this new word, productize your offering. It's almost like pivot, but productize. Okay, tell me about this new word and getting the word out.
Productize your offering means it's tough to, a lot of digital marketing is trying to get the word out, but it's trying to do it about a specific thing. So when I say productize your offering, it's a lot easier for people to understand. It's a lot easier for anyone to create messaging if what I understand is a product. I don't care what we say in the slides. There's a million different things this can mean. This can mean a physical product, it can mean a services, it can mean a knowledge. Changing your optics to say, let's productize, let's create products in our business. What are individual products that we are selling? Whether it be, I mean, I could take a million different examples. You feel free to throw one out, but we need to create these products in our business so when we are talking to people and we're doing messaging, there's a sleeve that is some education about the business and offerings, but then there's a sleeve where, okay, well, we're here to, these are our products. This is why we're here. This is why we're here to help you. This is what we're selling. This is what we're doing. And that really can be anything, but kind of productizing those really helps you, one, hone in and create a clear message to someone, because you're asking someone for a lot of time to invest in education and your business. And if I just came to you and gave you this whole digital marketing spiel and some education points, there's a lot in this presentation. But if I just came and said, this is one thing, we shoot video, we do it we feel like we have a really good strategy behind it, and we focus on that. All of a sudden, you understand that that's a product that you guys are offering. And that could be, as I said, really anything, but having that mentality of, it goes back to messaging too, where we can productize your offering, and it can be multiple or singular or whatever, but having those optics, and it allows you to get messaging a lot clearer and allow you to develop what are called sales funnels, meaning that there's messaging at the top of an inverted pyramid, and it goes down to a product or whatever you're selling. But that product is the culmination of messaging and strategy, and this is where we're trying to get you to go to right here. So
I wonder, I have a question for you. I think this might be an example of a sales funnel and productizing your offering. You tell me. I got an email recently from, one of my local shoe store, which I love to go to, really love to support my local business. And it happened to coincide when my daughter had just gotten a new job and needed some new shoes. So it was great. And, it was a 50% off sale, and right when stores were allowed to start reopening in June. So we went down there, and we weren't sure what to expect, right? It was brand new. And, I'm touching base with the gentleman in this case who's running the store, and he's already sharing space with a clothing store to help with costs.
Yep.
And I asked him how it was going over the past 4 months. And he said, I could probably live just from my sales of a particular line he carries, a very popular particular line he carries that he's very well known for. And I said, wow, that's great. And he goes, a lot of businesses right now are opening to close. Whereas I'm opening and I'm relaunching, and maybe I'm not going to carry as many fancy dress shoes or fancy whatever type shoes right now. Maybe I'm going to get more into slippers and running shoes and other things if people are working from home. But knowing that I have this, definite funnel of these particular types of boots he sells, that people, they know their size, they know what they like, they know he can get them for them. I thought that was a really, really interesting that he had taken that time to really hone that, but then also figure out in his offerings what he needed to change. Is that a good example of that sort of productize your offering?
There's so many great examples there, and that's a phenomenal example of it. That's a phenomenal example of going back to that first slide of understanding you're awesome, now leave it at the door. That person, that business owner, going in saying, here's what the market really wants from us. We can offer this fantastic thing, and now let's be adaptable, right? Let's be adaptable to the market based on a need, and that adaptability is so crucial with messaging. And again, to your point, productizing, they understood what the market wants, and then they created a product to serve that, because each market is going to fluctuate. And I love that, like most, some businesses are opening to close. We've seen really without any kind of warning coming, a lot of education, and I'll leave it that way, in the sense of where there are some gaps and where businesses can really flourish and move ahead and become adaptable, I guess, is what. And that's a phenomenal point you brought up there. That adaptation.
One of the things I think he was able to do successfully, because I don't follow any of his social media, but he is on some social media channels, was he was still emailing his email list, and he was still updating his website. So It wasn't like if you were missing out on one of them, because some of us, maybe we have some screen fatigue at this point, or
Absolutely.
We found some of those social sites, maybe they've gotten a bit toxic, or we're just tired and we just don't want that. But if it's an email in my email box and it's telling me I could get 50% off, maybe I'm going to go and click on that link and see what that's about. So I think that was a really important piece of the messaging there too that wasn't forgotten. Let's not forget the people who maybe only want to connect with me in this format.
And that really it really takes us into the next slide, exactly what you just said. Fully understanding your audience, and understanding, you brought up a phenomenal point with an email, because that's the channel that you want to get communicated with. So when we're sitting down with somebody and we're talking about, we've gone through kind of productizing an offering or taken through an exercise like that, we step back and really look at, let's build what's called an avatar, or your customer avatar. Just means who's buying what. And there could be 50 different products with 50 different people buying them. But we really want to look at who's consuming. And when I say buying, it's just either consuming your product or physically buying it or whatever your product is asking. We're going to look at who those people are. And then we're going to look at where do they interact digitally. Are they more likely to convert through email? Are they social? And of social, what's the breakdown of it? Or which platforms are they on? Are they on web? So where are they going to respond to those kind of data points? And what we'll do is create basically like a pie chart and bust the pie chart down for each of the consumer and say, these are the percentages of where they're interacting digitally and where the conversions or where they're churning, they're coming and making our offering go real. We'll look at those pie charts, and that will be the foundation of how that we get that messaging out. And again, those are fluid, but you brought up a phenomenal point about I can't look at any more political ads on Facebook. I get that doesn't really happen in Canada. I get that, but I can't look at something. I'm burned out on these different platforms. I've seen enough Google ads to kill me. I still check my email because I'm still involved with business, and those are conversions. So you brought up a phenomenal point that under this person understanding their distribution channels of where you're actually getting some stuff, they've done a phenomenal job at. So that's really that understanding, fully understanding your audience. And this is one of my favorite exercises for a business that has been in business for a long time. Let's just sit. Sometimes you get caught up in success, right? Success can paralyze a business, meaning that when you're making some money and everybody's getting paid and there's some profit, if that's the ultimate goal, then great, you've done it. But also, it can really kind of slow things down because there's success there. Taking a step back and really looking at, and this can work equally if you've been in business 0 days or 1,000,000 days, looking at who's your audience? How are they interacting with your brand? How do you speak to them? Where do they come from? And answering some of those basic questions, because it can change over the life cycle of a business. So you brought up a phenomenal point, and I think it's very connected to where we are right now with coming out of COVID, and as stuff starts to ramp up. Where people are engaging and where they're going to be engaging is this moving target. So understanding that and having that these exercises are super important.
And I mean, also, if you know your audience and you know who they are, perhaps what demographic they are, I mean, you're reaching them, but perhaps you're trying to reach a different audience. Yeah. It's knowing how to reach that audience. Like I know I have teenagers, and really, unless you're sending them something via text or posting it on Snapchat or Instagram, they're not seeing it. So I look at schools emailing all this stuff, and I'm like, they're not looking at their email. They're not going to go log into some portal and check their email. If it's not on their phone, you've missed them. Whereas I look at, maybe a Generation Xer is in a different, they might check more channels or be on different types of social media or rely on email or a website more often. So I do find that's important too, to really understand the demographic of your audience. Because I do find that frustrating when people shake their heads, they can't reach someone. I'm like, well, how are you trying to reach them?
Such a good point. So I need you out on the street yelling that, because that's 100% it. I mean, that you can have the best messaging in the world, but if you're giving the wrong distribution channel, you're going to get completely frustrated. And that also goes back to even the first slide of understanding that it's a collective of a lot of parts, and those parts will tell you. You will get data back to understand what's working and what's not working. So, and this is a great, again, good segue to the building your presence part. And this is, again, all these kind of concepts apply to someone who's even super successful about a company, organization, or person, an individual who's super successful about building a presence, and they've already done it. These things can apply for that person and someone who's just starting out. So when we talk about, this is where the kind of rubber hits the road, right? So say to your point, we know our distribution channels to a certain extent. We know who's interacting with these distribution channels, and we want to start getting the message out. I keep hearing, our team hears a lot, just make me go viral. And I mean, that's nothing we can control, right? They control what you can control. So we can come up with messaging, play the odds, produce great content and put it out there, and then measure and adapt, right? But that's really all we can do. But having some of these kind of tips going in that I wish, and I wish our team had years ago, these are probably 4 of the biggest in understanding. It's be okay with being bad, right? It's okay to be bad. It's okay to be bad putting, you put bad photos out initially. You put some bad video. I don't know how to shoot some video. I'm not as talented as a writer as I need to be, or whatever that main kind of cog is, start. And even if you went to school and you went all the way, when you actually are putting where the rubber's meeting the road, it's different because your messaging can be different. Your audience can interact with it differently. So it's okay to not be phenomenal right out of the gate. And no one who creates content is that. It's an ever evolving process. One of the big things that I wish that we had done, and I always kind of definitely would recommend, if you took nothing else from this, take this, is spend other people's money. Look at brands, going back to those brands you love and you really interact with from that standpoint, but then from if you're looking at it from an entrepreneurial standpoint or a business standpoint, or individual trying to build it, or artist trying to build an online presence, look at the presences that you really find successful and understand, really look at what they're doing, how they do it. They've spent a lot of time, a lot of money. And as far as companies, they have giant teams. This is not a single person putting this stuff out. These are teams. And this is millions of dollars in cases over years of being bad and getting to and refining their process at all times. So when we're looking in industries, we're always constantly looking at who do we look up to as a team and who's been successful and what can we take, and it's not saying copy, but take and then say, how can we make that in our own ecosphere? How can we do that? Because they've done a lot of the hard work and they're constantly spending money. So there's a million ways to look at, even down to rubber hitting the road where, hey, I just want to sell some stuff online. Go to a website you like and you can look in the back end and see how they're trying to sell to you to try to help. So there's a million different tips and tricks to do that. But that's a great starting point about spending other people's money and marketing dollars just to create. It takes some personal investment or team investment, but it's an exercise that's really going to pay dividends, and it's going to be frustrating, but it's going to try to minimize that frustration.
Okay, super. I'm going to move us along here. Oh, I love this rinse and repeat.
I mean, I don't know what else to say. It really kind of that's that process of looking back in the mirror. And any process is going to kind of be cyclical. Looking back in the mirror and reevaluating and take those. Some places do it weekly. You can do it quarterly, yearly, biannually, whatever works for your organization or your individual. Look back through these steps and processes and just continually ask yourself, are we putting out the best we can? Is our team putting out the best we can? So we constantly are doing that. Again, it goes back to the last side, be obsessive. I mean, that's kind of what a driving force for us.
I like that you talk about it being cyclical, because I think a lot of people think that to get to success, failures at one end of the spectrum, success is at the other, and it's really not, right? It's cyclical. You can't ever achieve success without first encountering failure, and usually repeatedly. And that's how the most successful businesses, entrepreneurs are there. But you first have to make mistakes and figure it out. And then this rinse and repeat cycle is all about that. You go back and you kind of evaluate what's working well here, what isn't, how can we improve? But you can't do that unless you're willing to make some mistakes to begin with, right?
Absolutely. Yep. There's no, but you put it perfectly. That's it. And embrace that. Embrace those mistakes. There's always just bad connotations around mistakes and failure. And it can be horrible, but you want to think back to when you've heard conversations in your life where like, it was this down part, we made this huge mistake. These words usually follow that. That was the best thing that could have happened, because then we went here, right? So like, that's typically what happens, and understanding that mindset going in, that those mistakes and that failure and those kind of adaptability can be the biggest assets to a business as far as motivation. So
well, it always creates opportunity, right? Any event, even what we're going through right now, creates incredible opportunity if you're willing to shift and look at that.
Mm-hmm. This slide I really wanted to point out that same concept of 6 years and 6 months. The social platforms have really gone 6 years and 6 months with technology offering, in the sense of, this is just a single example, but there's been a big push in this local community and everywhere about getting people an online store, being able to sell. How can you sell digitally? How can you create that point? A message that we always want to incorporate also is the social side of e-commerce. So the social side of e-commerce has taken leaps and bounds. Historically, when we're talking about defining a social messaging and a social strategy, it's just been, oh, snap some pictures and put up some videos and you're good. When we're talking about now, and we've been talking about for the past 6 months, is making your social presence, monetize your social presence, monetize it, make it a product offering, make it work for you, make it a profit center rather than just a messaging center. So these advancements that we've seen is both Facebook and Instagram integrate e-commerce, meaning that you can click on a post in Instagram on your phone, look at the shoes, buy the shoes, and you've never left Instagram. And you can do that with pictures, and they've now integrated video in that. So now you can buy, you could post a video with product or talking, and you could sell product directly from that video. So it's really, I mean, honestly, I was expecting that to roll out to take 12, 18 months, and they've done it and compressed it in the last couple. And they've integrated stuff like delivery options if you were a food business for Instagram, to donations, to digital gift cards. They really are trying to make social an ecosphere of commerce. So that's one thing I would definitely keep at the top of mind, is that social is not just pretty pictures and some video and stuff. Think of it, it can turn into a profit center. I mean, if it's done correctly, that's one of the biggest things that our team is definitely so excited about, is the advent of that, and that kind of curating content to where it's not all selling, but integrating that was great, because a lot of companies that we've worked with saw social media as a checkbox. Hey, we need to be on Instagram, we need to be on Twitter, we need to be on Facebook, we need a good LinkedIn presence. But they weren't really thinking about, it's never going to make me money, or it's not tangible, or the money that's made can never be tracked. So I thought that was something that we've seen come really to the forefront over the past couple of months, and really kind of shoot forward.
Well, and I think a lot of people weren't sure how to support local business during this time. And when I was checking out Hometown Hub, I was really quite blown away by how many local businesses were on it from across the whole greater Hamilton area. I mean, I work in one end of the city, I live in another, my husband lives in a different area, and that all those businesses from all those different spots were there. And I was like, I was really impressed by that, and that they were able to find a presence.
Yeah.
I think that's really key as well.
Well, yeah, for sure.
And that might that kind of puts us perfectly to this slide, doesn't it?
Magic. You brought up some really good points. So that kind of covers a little bit, okay, the 10,000 foot view of how we kind of our optics as far as an organization. But when we were approached with Hometown Hub, there was obviously a speed to it, right? So just get something out there quickly. And we built version 1, where version 1's goal was just to get things up, have a central location, someone could look at it. We also really focused on the user. We looked at just building just a straight list and just having that, but we really wanted people to have those conversion points, meaning we wanted them to buy with their eyes, right? So we needed to represent, whether it was food or services or a shop, we needed that element in there, right? And we also wanted to incorporate video, but it was just a fire drill to get to the first version 1 of Hometown Hub. And then we stepped back for a month and a half, real time, it was like a week, and kind of looked at how people were interacting with the hub. What were they wanting? What questions were they wanting? Where was the frustration when they were navigating the site? And what you know, we put some video production elements on the site. Were they engaging in video? And we really looked at some of the stuffs with Hometown Hub being like, people couldn't search for anything, which everyone hated. People couldn't go and find out more about a restaurant or a local business or a streaming service on the hub because there wasn't an integrated page. We harvested all this kind of data, and we were immediately working after version 1 launch. We immediately started working on version 2 launch because people were asking, hey, I want to interact, but what's right around me? Because some of the delivery services only offer delivery within 5 miles. So there was all these kind of factors looking in when we really wanted to kind of take those into version 2. And so we weren't even kind of asleep on version 1 where we started version 2. And version 2, one of the big takeaways was we integrated that. We were integrating a lot of search. We tried to organize the data for people. We tried to organize where they would be looking, what they'd be looking for, what they were searching for. There was a big portion, and we can get to it in a minute, so for Hamilton, if you go to the next slide, I can kind of go over the web portion. Mm-hmm. So when we looked at the web portion, this is where on the left side of the screen, you're going to see the searching and locations and typing in whatever you want and then having those visual elements. And then once you go to a page or a dive down page, and this doesn't show the whole page, but it gives you the breadth where there's categories. If someone just wants burgers or a patio or sandwiches, we took that into account. Now, I'll touch on it on this slide, but one of the biggest things that we understood about Hamilton is the communication. So a lot of the businesses in Hamilton communicate through social media, and particularly Instagram. A lot of restaurants, and not just restaurants. One of the biggest surprises we had from Hometown Hub is quickly the #1 page was the local shopping page. We thought it was going to be food. Right, and food was always strong, but the people wanting to shop online at local stores, that page has the most traffic on Hometown Hub, which is amazing. We love that, because it really kind of tells us, and it's been consistent. That hasn't died off from the start to now. So it really tells us people want to support. Back to my point over here on the right side, we understood that people use social media in this, especially in the Hamilton community, as a messaging tool. So if they want to, a lot of times they're not updating their website yet, maybe even not Facebook, but they're updating, their Instagram page is updated. So what we wanted to do was give people a central location where they didn't need a login. They don't need a login for Facebook. They don't need a login for Instagram, but they can experience the company's Instagram profile directly in their info card. So you can, if we were in the website, you could click on that area. It would be a scroll of their Instagram and get to experience that, experience how they're messaging, and it really creates more of an immersive experience for someone who wants to get to know a business. And honestly, that's a lot of where the messaging was going. So in that generation 2, we wanted to fully bring together a website that was also bringing a lot of the social elements that were happening in those communication channels, because we know that's how Hamilton, and it's not just isolated Hamilton, we know that's a lot of communities speak through social. So we thought that was really crucial to integrate. It was difficult, but we were really happy with the end result of kind of tying those things together.
I know I was really impressed by that. I know, like, we've, it always takes a bit to get these events organized and scheduled, and then to the actual night of delivery. And in the months that we've been, working towards this, I've looked at your website a number of times, and it has gone through those versions. And I'm so impressed that I can click on whether it's a store or a restaurant or whatever it is I'm looking for, and I can see all their social right there. I don't have to have all those other things that maybe I don't feel like having Twitter right now, or but I can follow them that way. And I found that really helpful. And especially with the restaurants, seeing, okay, they use Skip the Dishes, they use Uber Eats, they do this, they do that. Like, I found that really helpful too. And I was just, how many there were to choose from. It is kind of mind blowing. But I do feel like that one-stop shop, no matter what it was really an immersive experience and really integral to me going, this is where I'm going to check stuff out. And I think the last time I checked out, you even had a phenomenal performer. I think it was Alex Worms, who was broadcast, like streaming live from your site, which I thought, okay, and they support artists. This is wonderful. So I did think that was really cool that you were doing that as well.
Really appreciate that. I mean, that's for Generation 2, one of the biggest words that we had on the whiteboard was inclusivity. So we wanted an inclusive experience on the web. And we've been a huge advocate of the arts community here in Hamilton since the onset of Hamilton Rising. And one of the kind of friction points that we always got thrown at us was, okay, well, we want to help you integrate someone, but there's a community here that doesn't want to integrate with social. They don't want to interact with it. They don't want a mobile app. They don't want to deal with any of that, but we never wanted to feel them left out. So we had, when Arts Week came around, we wanted to raise our hand right away and say, how can we help out? And what we did was, to your point, is integrate a lot of the live streams, and we embedded them on the pages. So no, you didn't need any account, you didn't need a Facebook, you didn't need anything. You could come to, all you needed was internet access, and you could come to that person's page, watch their live performance, have it be there. Even if it was a podcast, we were embedding podcasts in, so you could have this unlimited access to digital. We wanted to open it up to everybody and engage with social where it's not just on a website, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's critical. So key. And here we are at the social.
Oh. On this page too, this was another thing that we really wanted to address. So much of the communities use hashtags to tell stories, right? So use hashtags from a business standpoint, from a personal standpoint, an event standpoint, they'll use specific hashtags. So what we accomplished is we can build a kind of ecosystem, an Instagram ecosystem around a hashtag. So you can go on the homepage and see hashtag Hamont is one of the most popular hashtags there is out there, right? So as far as Hamilton, and I think each city has something very similar. So what you can do now is, this is an Instagram, what it would appear to the end person on the website, it would appear to be a full Instagram feed. And these are just the posts that are tagged hashtag Hamont. So it's really it's great storytelling. And what it also allows us to do is, there's a lot of companies maybe that don't have an Instagram account. I don't even know what Instagram is. But what's happened is that other people have used a hashtag or used a location tag, which just means that, say I have Sam's Hot Dogs. I don't have Instagram, but people who come and eat here, they use our location on Instagram. They don't realize we've built an Instagram feed just off the location. So we've tried to do that, as speaking to inclusivity, we've tried to leverage what the social platforms have given us to give the user a really kind of immersive experience. And I will say that it's in the data. I mean, we've looked at, the one point that we've really looked at with Hometown Hub is, how long are people spending on the site? And with the first version, it was just say a minute and a half average, and with the new version we're up over almost to 5 minutes per user. So if you look at those two data points, we're trying to move in the right direction, and we really want to kind of keep moving forward.
And I think that speaks huge to storytelling, right? Because, as an entrepreneur, a new business, you're always, that whole I am awesome, but you also want to tell your story. You want to know, what's your why? I always know that's a huge thing to ask someone. What's your why? Like, why are you doing this? And if you can share some of that through a storyboard like this, through Instagram, through a hashtag, then that's a great thing to do. And then the videos. I just was sent this video to my inbox. I was emailing you about this, and I was so thrilled because they've opened up a store around the corner from our central branch, and I can't wait to go check it out.
I've easily gained my my quarantine 20 just off this store, so I can see it in the video down there. It's embarrassing, so that's good. But no, our team, we love video. I don't know how else to say it. You want to say what's your why? We love video, and we really love producing video, and we really focus on trying to push that production to another level. Because I mean, Hamilton Rising, we wanted, again, going back to that pillar, was video messaging on social distribution. I mean, that was why we did it, and we've continually strived. We know that video can be cost prohibitive and expensive, and there's knowledge and a learning curve. Our big thing is we want to help this community tell a story through video, and any way we can do it. So Katarina's been a great friend to us for forever, and she just has such a phenomenal story. And so we started and launched this Humans of the Hub, that we want to go around Hamilton and highlight some of these personalities that maybe people don't know about, but give them an opportunity to meet them and engage with them. And then, it's really that kind of triple win. We want to give Katarina a digital asset. I mean, anything that we shoot for Humans of the Hub, take it, use it, get the word out for you. And it's kind of, it helps them create a digital asset. It helps us put something out. And we feel that it creates and helps the Hamilton really get to know all the amazing people who make up this community.
Well, and I think especially it's so true now, given how isolated many people have been feeling and how isolated many people still are. And to have a connection, whether it be like we're doing right now, sharing this type of information, whether it's by clicking on a link and watching a video, whether it's by going in person to see someone, right? But it's having that, you already have that sort of familiarity, but that connection is so key.
Love it. That's so good. Yep. And that's one of the core principles of it. So, yeah, and that was when Hometown Hub version 2, that's why we said we really wanted to kind of meld together it all. We wanted web, but we wanted social because we know it's how people, and we hadn't seen that before. And that was one of the things we're pushing for is a site that wasn't just a website. It was everything. Yeah, it's never everything, but that was the goal, right? And that's our continued goal, is that kind of immersive web, social, video experience with no barriers, being completely inclusive. So we feel like we're getting there. We're not totally there yet, but that's kind of on the masthead of what we're striving to do every day. So,
well, I've got some information up here, Sam, just on how people can connect with you.
Yeah,
whether it's email, the website, through Hamilton Rising or Hometown Hub. Yep. So I'm going to leave that up for a little bit. I'm just going to check and see if we have some questions that have come through our Q&A. So just give me a second to do that. If you want to speak more about this slide, you can certainly do that.
Yeah, I don't know. If you want to reach out, go ahead. Always happy to answer questions, and there's nothing really out of bounds or whatever you kind of want to talk about. Again, our entire team is super passionate about all these things. It's tough to shut it off, so we're happy to engage with anybody and everybody about these topics. And again, our goal is just to get out, spend our money, spend our time capital. Try to. We're an open book, so whatever you need some help with, feel free to reach out. And if we have the time and everything works out, we're happy to help.
Now, you had talked earlier about spending other people's money.
Yeah.
And that's probably one of the top questions we get is, how do you do this? And how do you do this either on no budget or a very limited budget?
For sure. I honestly think this part of this question is a big one. But I would say if you wanted to build a sales presence right now online and want to try to convert and generate income, that the advent of social selling is one of the biggest things that I would say. And understanding how businesses sell on social is, I know that the city and Digital Main Street and Google and a lot of people put together a plan to help businesses with getting an e-commerce store, right? Getting you selling online. And that is, I'm blown away that that's out there. And I really would stress people to take advantage of those kind of things, especially that. But also understand that there's more to it out there that's pretty accessible. Like selling online doesn't really take any money per se. I mean, there's some minutia and some learning, but you could start that pretty conservatively.
That's so great, Sam, that you brought that up about those other channels like Digital Main Street, because we will be doing another Power Up Monday event. It's actually going to be on August the 10th, but at lunchtime. But once again, we're going to record it, and we're going to talk specifically with Digital Main Street about that Shop Here program. So that's going to be a wonderful opportunity for entrepreneurs, small business, artists to learn, how can I spend other people's money? How can I get this type of a grant? And what do I need to qualify for that? And then along those same lines, another great question popped up out of what you were just saying. Is it necessary to be on all forms of social media? You're talking about maximizing them for selling, but is it necessary to be on all of them?
Zero. No. I mean, there's only so much bandwidth and team size, right? So kind of when we go back to understanding those demographics or that customer avatar, that really speaks to your point. If say you and I were developing a company and we wanted to speak to an audience that was a younger demographic, let's say either in university, college, or just coming out of high school. If we interact on a platform they're not going to be on and our messaging really is to them, they're not going to see it. So do that exercise first and then look at the platforms. Historically, when we first were dealing with Hamilton Rising, our Twitter presence is awful. I mean, we have a terrible Twitter presence. And we always kind of felt weird about it, but also we know that a lot of the audience that's going to engage with our content really doesn't live there. So we really want to spend time where we can cast a good messaging net, but also understand it with what the kind of content we put out it's not really Twitter, right? Or and understanding that, and then understanding that, take TikTok, for example. There's going to be another TikTok in a year and a half. So don't think there's not, so kind of understanding the platform, doing a little deep dive. Don't feel the pressure that like, I have to be everywhere. But what I mean originally by understanding all the data points is there's some social trust you got to build. There's some review trust. There's some web trust. That's really what I'm talking about. But don't feel pressure to be everywhere unless you have a 30-person team, I guess, that can execute on it. Does that help?
No, it does help, because I know, like, for instance, restaurants really value Instagram, right? Because foodies love Instagram.
Yep.
So I do think that you're right. Certain things are really important for certain businesses, whereas LinkedIn might be really important for a different business, or Facebook, right? It does really depend on what it is you're doing. There was just one more thing I wanted to get to. Let me just see if I can figure out how to do it right here. A lot of us took a little bit, not a break, but as many businesses, as different institutions like the library, were figuring out how to change and pivot during this time. Lots of our content also moved online, and I was really thrilled that we were able to move our Power Up Mondays online and still reach such a terrific audience. So it was really important that we're able to do that. So I was really happy to be able to share and introduce everyone to.
Does that work?
That's fabulous. That's exactly it. And share Hometown Hub with everyone tonight, with all of you in the audience and Sam. And I don't know, I'm hoping that they can now see the upcoming Power Up Mondays, which just gives you the dates and topics. Once again, those are also all available under hpl.ca. And as will this recording of Hometown Hub with our special guest, Sam Holdridge, will also be available once we've had a chance to download it and hopefully edit out some of my challenges and post to our YouTube playlist. We're hoping to have a separate playlist for Power Up Monday, so you'll have a great way to look. And while you're there, check out a Noon Hour concert or listen to some poems from home or teach yourself how to make a paperback daisy. Maybe join one of our online book clubs. There's lots of great stuff going on in the Hamilton community. And with that, I'm just going to say goodnight and thank everyone. And thank you again, Sam, so much for your time and your expertise and for joining us.
It was so much fun. I really appreciate you having me. I really appreciate it.
So I hope everyone stays safe and stays healthy, and that we'll be able to connect again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
See ya.